Yeah, Katie, so if you got that.
Okay, perfect.
And
Sorry, I forgot to ask specifically.
all right. Well, hey everybody. We have quite a few people joining us today, so we're going to just kind of wait a few seconds before we dive in to our exciting content with our guest speaker today. So as you are joining, we always like to hear where you are joining from in the chat, and that kind of lets us know how many people are here and that everyone can hear us, and we're getting ready to get started. Oh gosh, good. This is great. It's always fun, Mika. We have people all over the world. I see South Africa, Kentucky, Virginia. That's close to you.
Yeah, close to me, Kentucky. That's where my alma mater is, where I served in the U.S. Army there at Fort Knox. Wonder if we have any Manas from up north.
Possibly. Gosh, we see lots. Okay, good. Great. Well, hi, everybody. I see that this is working. We've got people joining us, and I'd like to take a moment. My name is Tony Frana. I am the manager of career experts at FlexJobs. And today we are thrilled to have Mika Cross back with us to talk about some really important things that we're seeing in the workforce right now. We want to provide you with some resources. And so I just want to introduce her as we're getting started. Mika is an international speaker, a workplace expert, and innovator who has led award-winning efforts to transform employment and flexible work programs across the U.S. government and private industry. As she mentioned, she is an Army veteran. Mika brings over 2 decades of civil service experience from organizations like the U.S. Intelligence Community, Office of Personnel Management, the Department of Agriculture, and even the U.S. Department of Labor, among other agencies. Later, she was vice president of employer engagement at a company you all may have heard of, FlexJobs. That's right. We worked together at FlexJobs previously, and she did that before founding her own veteran-owned small business, Strategy at Work. And through Strategy at Work, Mika partners with organizations to equip teams with the skills and tools they need to drive exceptional results. She is widely recognized as a government workplace expert. She is a very sought-after voice on the future of work and workplace policy, serving as a frequent expert witness for the Senate Oversight and Reform Committee. And she's here today to guide us in navigating the ever-evolving, especially now, world of work. Hey, Mika, thanks for being here today.
Hey, Tony, thanks for having me back for our Workplace Remix. This series has been so fun to launch with you and the FlexJobs family. And thanks to all of you who are tuning in for bringing us back, because at the end, we're going to invite you to weigh in with a quick 2-minute pulse check just to let us know what you liked about our session today, what you want to hear about next, because we are designing these pretty much once a quarter, I think, right, Tony?
Yeah, absolutely. So thrilling.
With you in mind, but also with what's current and top of mind in the workforce and the job market. And let me tell you, as a mom of not one, but 2 2025 graduates, one from college and one from high school, today's topic is super near and dear to my heart. Because whether you're launching your career, returning after a long break, or pivoting into something new, this session is really about your remix. And we are looking at diving in as an early careerist and graduate, and also those of you who might have navigated a long career break, as I mentioned. So we're going to talk about a lot of conversation around tools, tips, ideas, and resources that can help you navigate today's job market with clarity and confidence. Because the labor market for recent grads in 2025 is one of the most challenging in the last decade, second only to the pandemic. Federal agencies, tech firms, consulting companies, they're all scaling back after years of growth, and that leaves a lot of uncertainty for job seekers, maybe in your same position. So before we get started, Tony mentioned this is designed to be a little bit different. It is meant to be a conversation. So please feel free to jump in. And I want to invite you to tell us, if you could design your ideal first job, what would it look like?
Ooh.
Maybe drop one word or phrase in the chat that captures your vision. Or if you're navigating back, you're returning back to the workforce after a long career break, what would that ideal first job look like? I see flexibility, having a paycheck, that's good. But collaborative and supportive, yeah. Stability, working from home, remote, tech, teamwork, love that. You know, you're all reminding us that today's workforce is super complex too, right? There's not a one size fits all. So today I want you to take some tips, tools, and resources in terms of what we're talking about and think about what could apply to your job search. How can you make the most meaning out of what we're talking about today? And maybe think about committing to just one thing that you'll do after today's session that will help you achieve that vision of designing your ideal first job. Over to you, Tony.
All right. Thank you. That's great. What a great start already today. And as a reminder, we are recording this webinar. We will be sending you a link to the recording and the handouts that are included at the end. And throughout the presentation, we will have some Q&A. So if you have questions, go ahead and put those in the Q&A section. And you know where the chat is already. So we may have some more questions coming down the pike for you to participate in if you so choose. So the topics we're going to talk about today, Mika already alluded to a couple of them, but we do want to start. We're going to talk about some trends in the workplace. We'll talk about exploring career paths in growth industries. Of course, what would a job seeking webinar be without talking about some resume and cover letter tips? And I love this topic that we want to talk about today, the importance of highlighting your data literacy and AI fluency. We'll also talk about my favorite thing, soft skills, and how they can really set you apart in the job search. And then we're going to talk about how you can kind of rethink, recharge, and reframe what you're doing to accelerate the success of your job search efforts. So let's start. Mika, you already kind of alluded to this, and we kind of let it slip that things are happening in the workforce right now. What are some of the top trends that you're seeing?
Yeah, so let's talk about what's shifting and how it's impacting entry-level opportunities that likely recent grads and new hires might be looking for. First of all, we're seeing a little bit of a hiring slowdown. Job postings for entry-level roles are dropping a little bit while applications are surging up. So this is indicating a really cold job market in some cases, depending upon the industry and occupation that new hires and recent graduates are looking for. You're seeing some stories in the news, maybe the media, you're hearing maybe your neighbors, or maybe you're experiencing yourself that it's taking a little bit longer to hear back from employers. Maybe you're dropping, going from 10 to 20 applications to 50 to 100 applications looking for that first new job. And that's why it's really important to understand the shifts that we're experiencing in the labor market and how it affects you personally as a job seeker and what you might be able to do to navigate and overcome some of those challenges. The other thing that we're seeing is, of course, the adoption and enhancement of AI. And you mentioned it, Tony, data literacy. So some, not all, but some entry-level tasks are starting to be absorbed by AI. But that doesn't mean that the jobs are being overtaken by AI. And that's why when you hear about employers who are looking for what's called data literacy or AI fluency, it's really important to stay up to date with some of those trends and get familiar with the tools that employers are looking for from their new hires from the get-go. But then let's talk about some salary gaps too, because organizations are also reporting a larger than usual gap between salary expectations and actual offers. So what can you do to navigate all this, right? I think first is to remember that you can reframe rejection as also redirection, but keep in mind, so many roles might not be posted publicly or might be on niche job boards like FlexJobs. I'm a huge fan. I worked there for many years, and FlexJobs hand screens, vets, and verifies each and every one of their job postings to make sure, A, that they're legitimate, free from scam, and that they have the kind of flexibility that you might be looking for, whether that be fully remote, whether that might be a hybrid role, or whether that may be a flexible schedule. So it's a really good place to start. But up to 70% of jobs these days are filled through networks or referrals. So prioritize looking at creating and enhancing either your virtual and social networks, like on platforms like LinkedIn. You can connect with Tony and I there. We're pretty active there. Or even leaning in on like your alumni associations, referrals, sororities, or maybe even honor societies if you were a part of that in school, in order to target the jobs and industries, but also build those connections in employers and organizations that you want to work for. And then last but not least, thinking about how you can show skills, not just job titles. Because when you're just getting started, or let's say you're navigating a career pivot after a long career gap, you really need to showcase your skills first, starting with skills first. Maybe you think about creating like a value snapshot. Maybe you post that on LinkedIn in addition to a multi-dimensional resume that highlights your accomplishments, your tech literacy, not just your responsibilities in a chronological order.
Perfect. I think those are excellent strategies to think about as we navigate through this. And I do have, we have a question from somebody that I think is really relevant to this in terms of the AI piece of it. And so I'm curious your thoughts here, because you talked about tasks sort of being absorbed by AI. And so someone is curious, what are the best ways to research what jobs in your field will still be relevant 1 year or 5 years from now? As a writer, that's what I'm trying to figure out, as so many writing jobs are currently going by the wayside. How do you best look into the demands of the future so you don't waste your time?
Such a good question. Thank you for asking that too. I like to lean on another organization that I used to work for, which is the U.S. Department of Labor. And they have a wonderful tool that is run by CareerOneStop. You can, maybe we'll even follow up this webinar and share the link. I should have thought to do that earlier. But they actually have a jobs forecasting tool that's free. It's open to the public. It's created by our tax dollars and, of course, our hardworking public servants who serve this country here in America. And so those tools can actually give you a sense for a 5 or 10-year horizon look in terms of what does the jobs predictions look like? Are they going to increase? Are they going to decrease? What does the salary range look like? Maybe at the median level, the high level, and even in the low level. And you can even search by demographic, meaning the area that you live in now, or an area that you might consider relocating to if you're just starting out and searching for a job in journalism or media. And that's a really great tool. They also have a really cool function, which is called a realistic job preview. So some jobs that people in not your generation, but the generation behind you coming into the workforce in 10 or 15 years will see haven't even been created yet. And so thinking about what kind of opportunities you might have not even considered or thought about, it's a really great resource to kind of get a sense for what's trending, and they're the nation's top authority on those things.
That's great. And I did add that website, careeronestop.org, in the chat. So some of you had been asking about that. So that's there. You can grab that link
Perfect.
and check it out. Good point. I love that site. It is really helpful.
It is, yeah.
And it kind of gives us a segue into our next topic in terms of exploring career paths in growth industries, right? As you were mentioning that. So what are you seeing for this, I guess, in this market, some areas that are growing, or what are your thoughts here?
Well, we're hearing a lot right now in the media. You may have seen news stories or read them too about this shift into manufacturing, green energy, aerospace, of course, AI, cyber technology. But it doesn't mean that these industry shifts are going to shift away all of the jobs. There may be components of jobs that you're searching for in degrees that you have just graduated with that are still going to be around. But that component of understanding what pieces are going to stay and what might grow or evolve out of it is incredibly important. So growth is happening in those industries. Healthcare is another one. And what I really want to foot stomp here, meaning emphasize, is this idea of career agility. So many grads may have a job in mind, a career fill in mind, and are experiencing a lot of churn. Maybe you're being ghosted by some recruiters. This happens to everyone. Don't take it personally. But they're finding ways to apply their skills in unexpected industries and opportunities, which allow them to continue thriving and continue applying what they've learned, whether it's a trade school, in community college, or another college or university institution. So you could also be thinking about getting experience in different ways, in creative ways, where I've seen job seekers in this market, even starting out, pivot into roles that they in an industry that they hadn't considered before. And some of the ways to do that is shadowing. And shadowing is a little different than an internship. It's likely not paid, but it gets you experience and in the door into an organization that may be hiring in order to see what it's like and experience not just the job, but also the culture, and also get an understanding for what daily tasks would look like, what it feels to work there. That's a really great way to consider getting in the door, proverbial door, into an opportunity. The other thing is to consider, and we talked about this last time, Tony, but some apprenticeship programs. If you haven't heard of an apprenticeship program before, again, the Department of Labor offers a website that highlights registered apprenticeship programs. These are highly vetted, they are legitimate opportunities, and they're opportunities for you to earn money while you're learning a new skill in a new industry. That's a really great way to get your foot in the door as well, especially when you're first starting out. And when you're thinking about applying what you've learned in school or trade school or at university or in high school, and combine it with new skills where employers are hiring right now.
So how would you recommend looking for apprenticeships? The same way maybe internships come about, or, even returnships for some people who might be doing a career break and might be entry level in their second career. What are some strategies to find those?
Yeah. So first, I would go to the Registered Apprenticeship Program website on the U.S. Department of Labor. So do dol.gov, like government, and search up registered apprenticeship programs. There, you can indicate that you are interested in an apprenticeship, and you can see what career paths are hiring from legitimate employers that have been approved to be in this nationwide program. So that's sort of a sure bet. The second thing I would recommend is looking at the website. Again, CareerOneStop is a great place to start, but there are over 2,700 what's called American Job Centers in the United States and U.S. territories. And American Job Centers also have access to employers who are hiring right now in your local communities. They also do have access to some remote and flexible jobs, but they also have access to apprenticeship programs, and they have relationships with employers that are hiring right now. That would be another great place to start. And you can find an American Job Center on that CareerOneStop website, which is free.
Perfect. And I also did add dol.gov to the chat.
Perfect.
A question from an attendee about entry level work and kind of a stepping stone to finding a career job. What are your thoughts on temporary agencies, like temp agencies, and work that people can find through staffing services? Is that a good idea? Is it something that will fill the resume in a good way, get some experience?
I definitely am an advocate personally, from what I've seen at the Department of Labor and even working at FlexJobs, that it's better to have something to sustain you while you're searching for your forever job or long-term job, let's say. And so when you're thinking about temp agencies, maybe even freelance or gig opportunities, you can find those on FlexJobs as well. But leaning into opportunities that will keep the lights on and maybe give you some flexibility while you're job searching for that preferable career, that first job that you really, really want to dig into and apply your skills and education to, while also allowing you to get some skills. And it's a good resume filler. So I'm a huge advocate for that. It's something I would recommend to both my 2025 graduates as well.
Absolutely. And I think the messaging here for this job market is to be proactive and creative, right? And so, if you're keeping the lights on or whatever it might be, there's a lot of places to look. Yes, it is a tight market, but continually being proactive and seeking out those opportunities and a little bit creative, maybe pursuing something or a temp agency like maybe you didn't think you would, or an apprenticeship. Those are some things that, again, can really give you some of that forward momentum into landing the job.
I agree. I think also one thing I'll recommend is volunteer roles or even internship positions, but that allow you to add more skills and experience to your resume. So even though you might not get financially paid at the time, maybe it's just for a short while, but you're learning new skills that you can apply to that paid position or that paid career when you move into the next market.
Perfect. And as we talk about resumes and getting information on your resume, I kind of want to go to the tangible aspect of applying for jobs now and your resume and your cover letter. Many of you out there who have been applying to jobs probably know already, or maybe you'll learn it right now, but it is really important to tailor your resume to the jobs that you apply for and your cover letter. So Mika, how do you customize your resume for impact without having to start from scratch every time? Because it really does. It takes a while and it can get pretty overwhelming with the volume of applications people are sending out.
It really does become overwhelming, doesn't it? I think I might have, to be honest, about 5 or 10 different resumes that were targeted to different kinds of positions when I was looking for an employee kind of role. So I might have one that was customized to human resources and human capital, and that spoke to my expertise and job experience in those kinds of roles, versus something else that was change management, transformation, future of work, kind of big picture level, versus strategic communications. I have that expertise too. So it's okay to have multiple versions, but it's probably wise to have a few core ones that really help lead and help inform hiring managers what you bring to the table and what your skill set is. So I would first say, think about starting with skills and then going from there. People also get really nervous about like tailoring resumes for the algorithm versus the human in screening. But I really think that you need to balance both. And that comes down to using keywords from job descriptions that resonate and reflect the skills and experience that you have, but also injecting your own voice and your own story to show who you are behind those bullet points. So I think it's a delicate balance there. Also, oh yeah, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, you mentioned the word story,
Yeah.
and I always think about how a cover letter can really be a great asset to continue telling your career story.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And those stories can even come from volunteering, freelance, a side hustle, things that you've done. Maybe you started a business, maybe you're freelancing for the writer that was chiming in on chat. And so maybe you think about saying, after organizing a volunteer food drive for my honor society or maybe my community church, I have strength in, or I am demonstrating strength in motivating cross-functional teams. I am able to lead multiple projects. We achieved X number of goals in serving families, those kinds of things. And then explain why in your cover letter, you're drawn to this project coordinator role or something similar.
Perfect. I do have a question from we have a few. As expected, this topic is pretty hot in terms of helping job seekers kind of go forward. So, what if for those of us that have skills and an employer might see them as overqualified? Is it better to list less jobs on the resume, and then how to, you've given us some strategies on what to include and how to kind of redo your resume, but how should you revamp it with previous experience for a new field and not overuse AI? So we can also talk about how AI can be used as a tool, but.
Yeah. So again, your resume isn't just a list, right? It is your story, back to that storytelling component. And in this market, it really does need to be sharp, strategic, and tailored. So I would recommend creating for your maybe 2 or 3 core areas that you're looking to get hired into, having a skills resume, maybe, and a chronological resume that you could pull from. And so when you think about what to list, in my opinion, it is leading with skills, also those soft skills, which right now in this job market, Tony, we do not consider as soft. We call them success skills. Employers are looking for people who can lead teams effectively, deflect conflict, resolve challenges, respond to customers, multitask, and be really efficient with time and drive exceptional results. So it is really important to kind of showcase your superpower. And I would say to have a skills-based version as well as maybe a chronological version so that you can strategize and choose which one to put forward, especially if you're experiencing the overqualified conundrum.
Yeah, for sure. And so when you here's another question along those lines of making it tailored for the job, but also for the human eye and for the software tools that companies use, like ATS systems. So, are humans? What is your? I'm curious your thoughts on this. And someone is asking this: Are humans looking at resumes anymore, or is it all just AI bots searching for keywords?
I don't think it's all or nothing, but it depends on the size of the employer and, to be honest, the industry. So again, leaning on your network, because the majority of jobs that get sourced are done through employee referrals. Again, those internships, shadowing, volunteer opportunities, and connecting with people who can sort of get you in the door and tell your story for you. I'm not suggesting that you can't get in the door through the traditional route. I'm saying that it needs to complement your job search strategy. And then I just really want to highlight these kinds of soft skills again that get you hired and also could get you promoted in this job market. Those are things like adaptability, emotional intelligence, effective communication, both written and verbal, problem solving, collaboration, time management, and also indicating whether you're a self-starter and are you a seasoned remote worker? Do you have expertise there? What tech platforms have you used? Are you able to collaborate and be responsive and accessible in an environment where you don't have to be managed by physical presence? So listing those kinds of skills really do get you noticed.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're spot on with soft skills, and I love that you called them success skills. Also, it sort of feels like if you're going to put these skills on your resume, you need to do it in a way that kind of tells a story, highlighting how you've used the skill, because you can say you're a team player or a continuous learner, but if that, especially when, maybe your experience is limited or unconventional, how would you recommend a bullet about a softer skill like problem solving or time management, any skill, and putting that on a resume for an employer to see, oh wow, this is really something that we need?
Yeah. So an example, let's start with the students, recent graduates.
Yeah, perfect.
Maybe worked with a team of 5 to lead a 10-page project or research sort of project, which achieved this specific tangible thing and maybe was delivered under the deadline or before the deadline. So that could be an example. The other thing would be if you have had maybe leadership experience. Did you play sports in college or high school? That exemplifies leadership and also time management in a sense of being able to be a full-time student while also being a full-time athlete, and those sorts of things. Practicing active listening and empathy. Again, deflecting conflict. Did you work in your community? Have you volunteered? Do you have experience, maybe like my son, in the high school ROTC program? So having to get up even before school starts every single day and meeting that standard by 90%. Thinking about how you can restructure the skills that you bring to the table in a way that aligns with what employers are looking for, but also kind of sets you apart. And a way you can also do that is using the STAR method.
Yes, I was just going to bring that up. Yep.
Yeah. So tell them what it is, Tony. That's
So,
yeah.
so the STAR method is, so even without a lot of experience in the role that you are trying to get, whether you are, new graduate like we're talking about, or you're doing a career change, you have experiences that you can rely on, whether it's projects, teamwork and team collaboration from a sports team or a club that you were in, or a previous career. When you talk about that in an interview or as part of your elevator pitch, you can use the STAR method, which is really a framework to help you tell your story. STAR is an acronym in this instance that stands for, S stands for situation. So you would outline a situation really briefly. Task is the T. A
Mhm.
stands for action. What action did you take for that task to get to a result, which is R. And basically what that allows you to do is illustrate for an employer, yes, you have this skill, or yes, you've had this experience, or you can answer this interview question. And it paints a really nice picture so they can start to visualize you in that role. And I don't
Yes.
know if you have anything specific else that you want to add, Mika, but I just was thinking about this as you were talking.
This is so perfect. I love that. This is why we do this, right? But you can also leverage practicing the STAR method for your interview skills as well. So when interviewing, you think through that framework and then shape your answer to match that STAR framework as well. So it's not just for resumes, it's also for practicing your interviewing skills. And it's a really great tip. One thing, I just want to tell a story, if that's okay.
Yes.
So my daughter graduated college with a degree in biology, and she decided that she's going to take a gap year while studying for the MCAT and hopefully applying to 20,000 med schools, because I think that's what you do when you're have your sights on medical school. Let me just tell you, biology is not the best degree by itself. So she decided to start applying to healthcare positions, entry level. She does have experience as a medical scribe, and she did have EMT qualifications. In her resume, because she had played Division III basketball, she also was a residential assistant. She was an honor roll student. She was able to highlight those things in her resume, and she got an awful lot of calls. We did not optimize it for ATS. We did not use AI except for to maybe put a few of her bullets through and say, is this aligned to the job? Do I want to make any other recommendations? Because she's actually not a huge fan of AI. But let me tell you, when she got her interviews, you want to know what they were asking? Tony, back to the success skills, they were asking things like, tell me about a time where people were spreading rumors at work and they were telling you to do something different in your job that you were trained differently on. And she was like, well, I would follow what the training said. But they really liked her answers, and she was able to frame it in that STAR format as well, because we had done it for her resume.
Mhm.
And she did a pretty good job. She had definitely did it on her own, but I was there to practice with her. So that's another hack. If you have a friend, a colleague, a peer, a parent that you can practice with as well and just run things past people, I call them my board of directors. Even at this stage in my career, it's also great to have. And it also allows you to tap into your network from a different perspective.
Absolutely. I think that is so key. And having the STAR framework, I think, can help take some nerves out of the interview as well, because you have some
Yes.
focus. So I think that's a great tip. Now, I do want to, I want to get to all of our topics, and I really do want to talk about AI some more and data literacy, because we've gotten a few questions about, upskilling, or how can you learn some more AI tools. So what is one way, particularly if you're a non-technical worker,
Mhm.
that you recommend to showcase that you've used new technology or data or AI tools in daily life or in studies or projects? How does that translate to the workplace? And what do we do with that to get that in front of an employer?
Yes. First of all, I just want to acknowledge that it's a little scary if you're not technically astute. Maybe if you're of a certain generation, though, it's easy to you. But, when you're talking about something that sounds like AI fluency, to me, that seems a little bit not off-putting, but a little scary, right? When you're navigating the job market. What I can say is that employers are hungry for candidates who can work with data, who
Sure.
understand how to translate those results and AI, and not just in tech roles, but across industries. So where can you start? First of all, I wanted to talk about that. There are some free courses on AI prompting, just learning that. You don't have to be a large language model, technical or proficient technologist to leverage AI for the purpose of creating more efficient and productive ways of working. Think it through that lens. I'm actually right now taking an AI executive bootcamp class for non-technical leaders because I recognize that I need to continue to stay up to date with those kinds of trends. So think about also if you have used any data or AI tools in your daily life, maybe in your studies, and then how can that translate to the workplace? Have you, and maybe in the chat, maybe you have some ideas and thoughts or some examples. Have you used it in your projects? Again, like in a group research project that we were talking about, maybe in school. Have you used any of these tools to draft an email, summarize reports, maybe brainstorm some ideas? And also, where can you go to understand how AI and other technology is being used in your target industry? That would be a smart thing to do as well.
Yep.
So for instance, my daughter who wants to go into healthcare and pursue medical school, she's learning how AI applies to like healthcare diagnostics or healthcare marketing and automating certain portions of like patient charts and things like that. Staying up to date and relevant in your technical field while not feeling too overwhelmed about the technology pieces of it, but rather thinking about it from what do I need to know and learn to be marketable in the job market right now?
Great. A couple other questions on that. And this we get a lot too at FlexJobs with our webinars that we do. Um, is it absolutely necessary in the job market to know about AI? Some people are opposed to its use,
Yeah.
especially creatively, but it does seem to be included in the majority of job postings in one way or another. Not that you have to be an expert, like you said, but
Yes,
even
you don't need to be an expert, but you have to be familiar with it. And I'll answer this candidly and truthfully. I believe there are those who use it and those who will. And that AI will become a part of our companion piece of life and work. I know that there are some ethical concerns. I acknowledge that. I used to work with a great team at the Census Bureau too, who's figuring that out. And they are all, ethnographers, demographers, survey statisticians, math stats, and they design these tools and use data constantly. So first of all, put your mind at ease that other people at the national level and international level are looking at ways to do this. But the very best employers are also equipping their teams with these skills internally. So you're going to be competing with an internal workforce who will have some understanding and rigor around how to leverage it. I would say go slow, take your time, and then find out where you can think about how it can improve. Maybe it's meal prepping. Maybe you're a busy mom and you're looking to plan a vacation. Start small and learn little hacks that can enhance the way that you're doing things already for your life by not supplementing, I don't want to get into the ethical pieces of it, but not supplementing it to do it for you, but to be a companion for you to help you out.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think what you said earlier about even just learning like AI prompt strategies is a very, basic level that I think is really kind of helpful all around. Like maybe just using one of the tools. You don't have to get into all of them. There's so many now.
There's so many. It gets a little overwhelming, right?
Yes. Yeah, so you'll find one that you're pretty satisfied with, use the free version, maybe just learn about prompts. And I love your example of just in your life, how you could use it. We did a vacation earlier this summer and I did lean into it a little bit just to kind of, make sure that I was on the right track and maybe get some new ideas for even places to eat because we were going far away to a place that we had never been. So I think there are ways that you can dip your toes in the water that will help you see how you might be able to use it as something to be more productive or efficient in the type of work that you do. And because I think, again, if you're going to be competing with people who have this skill, you don't want to be left behind.
And I will say employers have publicly stated that, especially when it comes to entry level. They want candidates. You don't have to be an expert, but you have to have an understanding. You have to. So they use this word AI fluency and you're thinking, oh, that does not apply to me. And that does not apply to my industry. But once you have familiarity with it and you've used it just a bit, put that on your resume as a differentiator.
Yep, agreed. Now I know we're kind of winding down and I want to give some time for a few more questions and some wrap up. But here's let's think about taking all this information, the challenges that are out there in the job market. And when the stakes are high, we have a tight job market, it's frustrating. Job searches are taking a long time. It's easy to get impatient. What is some overall advice you'd give us, people who are navigating this market?
Well, I want you to think about one skill that you've strengthened recently or that you'll commit to strengthen for the purpose of finding your next opportunity in this work remix that we're talking about. So I want you to think about it and how it has helped you or how it will help you. Because it's really important to take control over the things that you can control and also keep in mind the things that are out of your control. So what's out of your control as you navigate the job market? You're not going to be able to navigate or control how quickly recruiters get back to you after you put in applications. You're not going to be able to control how quickly they get back to you after you've interviewed. That was really a bone of contention for my daughter. She was getting frustrated because she would interview for a job that she was really excited about, and it would take weeks for her to hear back. And so think about, though, for yourself, one skill that you've strengthened recently or one skill that you'll commit to strengthening and how it will or has helped you. And the other thing is your own mindset reset. We're talking about workplace remixes.
Mhm.
Think about how you can rethink, how you can recharge your battery, and how you can reframe. And also, what's one tiny small step that you can take forward? Maybe it's someone you know in the community or someone you've gone to school with who's starting a new business. Could you add value to them, even if it's just a few hours a week, learning new skills, applying them while you're looking for another job? So just think about what you can control, what your biggest confidence boosters are when things get hard, lean into that. And also keep in mind that ideal work day, that ideal first job that we shared in the chat to begin with.
Oh, absolutely. I think that's such good advice. And I know today, we've talked briefly about the realities of the job market, how you can, enhance your resume and cover letters, aligning this with your job search with your values, and whether you're starting or starting again, your next step matters. So, Mika, what are some final thoughts that you have overall? And I know you've got some resources to share. So, over to you to kind of give us some direction there.
Yeah, I want you to also think about that. A career trajectory looks a lot different than it did 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 15 years ago. So don't be afraid to pivot when you need and to take opportunities where they come. And so that might look like taking that freelance or gig or 1099 role, which means you're an independent contractor or an independent worker subbing to someone else, maybe a non-employee role to start with, but it's getting you paid, you're getting some work experience, and you're also able to test out whether or not you like this kind of work.
Mhm.
And then don't be afraid to lean into your network. I really want to emphasize this really strongly for you and learn how to connect with people. That is a skill that in any industry, any occupation will do well for you. So finding out how you can build connection, and not just for the purpose of being transactional to ask someone for a job, but to really be intentional about building those connections and how you can strengthen your networking skills, because that will help you get to your next opportunity. And it might not look like the career you thought of, meaning I probably have switched out what, Tony? I think we talked about military experience, my time as a civilian public sector government worker out of uniform. I worked in private industry, and now I'm a business owner. That's like 4 careers, guys. Okay. So careers look different these days, but lean into that vision. Again, what is it that you want from work? What is it that you want from a job? And what is that vision for yourself for a career? And follow that passion, purpose, alignment. Be open to learning and be open to connecting and networking with others. It will do well for you.
Absolutely. And I think you brought up that point earlier about how a lot of jobs are found through networking and might not be posted. It might just be through having conversations. And so, again, a proactive job search, using all these resources, really having a strong picture of what it is that you are looking for and where your focus is really important. So where can people find you? And the QR code, you want to talk about what they'll find when they scan that?
Yes. First of all, this is our little weigh-in channel, meaning you can give us some anonymous feedback in terms of how you like today's sessions and topics, what else you might like to be talking about. I see in the chat, people are asking about experienced workers. Of course, this one was designed specifically for early careerists and finding your first job or navigating a career break. So that was the topic of today's, but we are happy to take your recommendations and dig into maybe, I think that would be a good one actually, because workers are working an awful long time. They're staying in the workforce longer. And so we're seeing seasoned workers with a lot of experience looking for their next career opportunity too. But here's where you can tell us what you thought of today, what you'd like to see next time, and also give us some feedback. And then you can find me on LinkedIn. You can also go visit mikacross.com to find more about my portfolio and my work and how I work with employers to bring training and events to organizations that need a little inspiration and to be thinking about how they can navigate the future of work.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much again, Mika. It was great to see you. Great talking with you. Everybody out there, thank you for your great questions and thanks for being here. Look for this recording within the next few days. Again, let us know what you'd like to hear about next and, appreciate any feedback that you can give us. We want to make sure we're providing the right resources and topics for you as we go forward and look into the fall. So everybody have a really great day, a great rest of your week, and we'll see you in Big Marker next time. Bye, everyone. Bye, Mika.
Bye. Thanks again.